Guys, the topic for today is Selenium Python tutorial. But before we actually begin, be sure to hit that subscribe button and click on that bell notification icon so you don't miss out on any updates from us. So today we are going to discuss the introduction to Selenium, what the technology is basically, why Selenium with Python. So there are a lot of technologies which you can use in conjunction with Selenium. Why use Python? Specifications for this tutorial. So I'm going to be telling you what I am using on my end for this particular tutorial. Locators. So we are going to be discussing Selenium locators, which are the fundamental aspect of the Selenium WebDriver. What are test suites? And finally, we're going to be actually running our own test suite on a website. So, introduction to Selenium. So Selenium essentially is a portable framework and it is used to test web applications, pure and simple. So the advantage that you get with Selenium, especially with the newer versions that are out, you can perform functional testing without actually having knowledge about the test scripting language. So the new method is this particular architecture in which you can use languages like Java, Python, Ruby, PHP, or C Sharp, or some of the other popular languages as well, like Perl, and you can write your own scripts in the language that you prefer, that you're comfortable with. You can create your own test cases in those languages. And then you can coordinate with the Selenium WebDriver. You can import the Selenium WebDriver libraries. You can connect to the Selenium WebDriver and you can run your test cases using that. So your Selenium WebDriver is compatible with most of the modern web browsers like Chrome, Firefox, Opera, Internet Explorer, and much more. And once the test cases are run on those particular browsers for the websites that you're running your test cases for, the responses are sent back to the driver and you get your test results and you can see which tests were successful and which were a failure. Why Selenium with Python? So among the many languages that we just discussed like Java, Ruby, Perl, PHP, why should you choose Python? The answer for that is quite simple. It offers a lot of advantages over traditional coding languages. For instance, Python is easy to learn. So that means that, as you can see on the right hand side, the difference between Java syntax and Python syntax. In Java, you have to declare classes, you have to declare the main method, you have to initialize the Chrome driver objects and whatnot. In Python, you can simply import the libraries that you need and get started with your particular use case. So it's quite easy to learn for somebody who's from a non-development background, basically doesn't have much experience in object-based programming. So for that purpose, it's quite easy to get into as a tester. And then easy integration. So as compared to other languages like Java and PHP, the integration between the libraries is quite hard. You have to attach a lot of dependencies to your code and whatnot. With Python, you can simply download the Selenium library, you can import it and get started with your coding. There are no additional dependencies required. Python notebooks. So Python, you get notebooks with Python, so you can execute statements line by line. Python also runs on an interpreter-based technology, which means the code is executed line by line, which helps us implement notebooks. So if you want to test individual features of a particular website and see what particular features would return to you, you can use notebooks for that. So that comes in quite handy when you're actually creating test cases or test suites. To be able to see what your test suite would actually call upon from the website. And then lastly, it has a great community support. So Python being a language, which is an open source language, there's a lot of community support available for this particular language. So if you ever run into any issues, there are chances that other people have run into those issues as well, and you'll get the solutions for your particular problem. So getting on to the specifications for this tutorial. So I'm going to be using a Windows 10 64-bit operating system. The IDE that I'm going to be using, and I'd recommend you all to use as well for package installations, I'm going to be using PyCharm IDE. So PyCharm might not be recommended for development purposes, but it's certainly recommended for Selenium purposes if you're testing cases. Python, so I'm going to be using a Python 3 plus version, so 3.6 to be exact. And then Selenium, obviously, I'm going to be installing the Selenium web drivers. And then for the testing purposes, for the Canvas purpose, I'm going to be using the browser Google Chrome, but you can use Mozilla Firefox or Internet Explorer as well, but you have to install the drivers accordingly. So let us get on to the tutorial section of things and let us understand locators. So locators are various elements of an HTML page that can be located with different names, which are ID, name, XPath, tag name, CSS selectors. So these are the particular examples by which you can get the elements. So HTML elements have ID, HTML elements might have names, might have absolute paths, might have tag names, might have some CSS selectors, so or might have some class names. You can get them by class names as well. So these are various attributes. So let us look into how we can access the website elements by using these. So first things first, we will go to File and PyCharm. We will click on Settings. We will go to the project that we've created. Then we will go to the Python interpreter. Once we've opened that, we can add new packages from here on out. Click on the plus icon and then simply type Selenium. And press enter. Wait for it to load, it will take some time. So scroll down until you find the package name that starts with Selenium. Just select that and click on install package. So it will take some time to install, but after it has been installed, we can use our Selenium imports. So as we can see, the package Selenium has been installed successfully. So the second thing we need to do now is install our web drivers. So for the browser that you would be using, in my case, I will be using Google Chrome. So you need to install the web drivers for that. Go to your Google search and type in Selenium. So once you've opened that up, open the first website that comes up, which is selenium.dev. Now we want the web driver, so we will click on the download button corresponding to the web driver. Then we will go scroll down until we find the Python Selenium web driver option, and then you click on download. Now we're on the pypy.org website, so here we will download the web driver for our particular web browser. In my case, I need the driver for Chrome, so I'll click on the Chrome option. So here we have all of the versions. So the current releases, if you're using the latest version of Chrome, you go for the Chrome driver, the latest version, whatever it is available, go for that. And then simply download for the operating system that you have, download the driver. So in my case, I have the Windows operating system, so I'll download the Win32 one. But if you have a Mac, you can go for the Mac, and if you have a Linux, go for the Linux. Also, make sure you remember the location of wherever you've downloaded and extracted your Chrome driver, because this will come in handy once we get started with our Selenium assignments. So open your PyCharm once again, and now we will go to the Python console. So this lets us enter Python commands line by line, similar to a Jupyter notebook. So open up that. And now, once it has been opened up, we can import our Selenium because it has been installed now. So simply type in from Selenium. So this is one of the packages that we just installed. Import WebDriver. And then once you've done that, simply click on play, or you can simply press enter as well. So the next thing to do is initializing your web browser. So simply create a variable browser. This could be anything, you can call it anything. And then equate it to WebDriver that you just imported, dot. And then you have all of these options. So in our case, we're going to be using Chrome. So click on Chrome. And then simply specify the path to the WebDriver that you just downloaded for Chrome. So simply put a single quote over there. And now we will open up the location once again. Copy this. Paste it over here. So remember that in the case of Windows, you'll always use double backslashes. So use double backslash for that. And make sure you also specify the application name, which is Chrome driver. In our case, as we can verify. So it's called Chrome driver. So make sure we specify that. Then once you've done that, press enter and click on allow access. So upon successful execution of that command, after you've given in the address to your Chrome WebDriver, this window of Google Chrome will open up, and as you can see, it is saying that Chrome is being controlled by automated test software. So whatever commands we run using Selenium will be tested and tried on this particular window of Chrome. So the first thing that we can do is just let's open up a website. Let's open up Intellipaat's website. So let's type in browser.get. And within this, you can specify which link you want to open. So let us type in HTTP. And then given the forward / and type in Intellipaat.com and press enter. So we can open up our browser now. We can see that Intellipaat.com has been opened up. So now we can get elements present within this web browser. So as we discussed in the PowerPoint presentation, we had certain elements that were available on the website, so we can access them now. So if we examine the website, we can see there are a lot of buttons available on the website. So for instance, if we can see the corporate training button that we have over here. So say we want to open that. So we can see the text. So this text definitely corresponds to a hyperlink. So we can see on the bottom left corner that it says intellipaat.com/corporate training. So that is the link that would open when we click on this, right? So let us say that we want to do that using automated software. So we will use get link text, and we will then implement it, and then we will redirect to it. So let's create an element and let's call it ELEM and equate it to browser.find element by link text. So you'll already get that option. Click on that. And within this, you can give in the text, the placeholder for that particular link. So in our case, the placeholder is corporate training, right? So once we've done that and we press enter, so I hope that is correct. Let me check once. So it says it is corporate training. So once we do that and we press enter, LM will store the attributes corresponding to that particular element of the HTML page. So now LM is storing the attributes. So if say we want to open up the corporate training page, we simply have to give in this simple command, which is lm dot that opened that up just a moment. So simply click in lm.click and press enter. So if we just open our page up, we can see that we are now redirected to the intellipaat.com/corporate training page. So we can see how we can get particular elements and basically implement our functionality with that. So say now we want to get particular elements by ID instead of by link text. right? So there's options for that as well, as we discussed in the presentation. So if we simply open up the website again, and we can now see we have a search bar in the center, right? And say we want to enter something in the search bar, we want to test this search bar, right? So there are two elements to the search bar. If you simply click on the search bar and click on inspect, on the right hand side, your elements option will open up and you will be able to see the HTML code for that, right? So as we can see, this particular element represents the search bar and it has an ID associated to it. The ID is called S, right? So S is the ID that represents the search bar for this particular web page, right? So we will remember that, and we'll open up PyCharm and say you want to create another element, and this would be equal to browser dot find element by ID, and then we simply, within the ID, we give in the option S because that was the ID of the search bar, and we press enter. So now LM contains the attributes related to the S ID, right? Now say we want to enter something in the search bar. So for that, simply type in LM dot send underscore keys, and within this you can send the actual input that you would want to give within the search bar. So let us type in Hadoop. So once you type in Hadoop, you can press enter, and it will basically have that in the search bar, and say you want to actually search, you want to initiate the search after inputting that. So if we simply open that up, we can see that Hadoop has been input. So if I simply look at the ID of the button that actually initiates the search, the ID is home-search-btn. So remember that, home-search-btn. So we'll go back. Now our LM, you can create another element. We'll call this LM2, and we'll change this to home-search-btn and cross check whether it's the same ID or not. So it is the same ID, and we'll press enter, and then we'll simply write lm2 dot, let's minimize this and type in lm2 dot click and press enter. So once you do that, you can now see that after the input that we had given, which was Hadoop, we also managed to search for it. So we were able to basically implement our search automation using Selenium with Python. The main advantage with using Selenium is that it gives you a lot of flexibility with how you want to access your elements. So one way is to access the elements by ID, which is this option. There are other ways as well. So you can simply find elements by other methodologies as well. So if I simply create another element, lm3, and equate it to browser.find underscore element, so we get a lot of options. So we, as we discussed in the presentation, we have the CSS selector, we have the class name, we have the name, we have the partial link text, tag name, XPath, class name. So we get all of these options, right? We can select any of these. So let us now try one other option. So let us just try to access it with the name. So find element by name, and the name is also S in this case, and if we press enter, so our lm3 will now be created. So once we've done that, we can essentially enter our input once again. So let us try that, lm3 dot send keys underscore keys, and let's type in Python, right? And then press enter. So if we check our website, we can see that it says Python. The S is because the browser opened while I was typing the code, so don't mind that. It says Python. So this is what the search bar says. So we now know how locators work. Let us look at test suites. So we can see that each web page has a lot of functionalities. For instance, the Intellipaat web page has a courses tab, has the corporate training tab, all courses, login, sign up, has a search bar. So if we just combine a bunch of these features together, like a bunch of these buttons or a bunch of these search bars, and create individual test cases for each of these elements to test whether the website is functioning 100% accordingly as it's supposed to function, like the features are supposed to work, like the search bar is supposed to redirect to another web page which actually gives the results. The courses bar is supposed to drop down and give a drop down menu, and the corporate training is supposed to lead somewhere else to another web page. To test whether all of these features are working, we create a combination of these test cases of all of these elements, and then we run all of them together and we see how many of them pass. So while in the development phase, while we've created our prototype or our website, what we do before actually deploying it on the live server is we run these test cases. And if all of these test cases pass, we actually deploy our website. So that is how it works in the industry level as well. We create test cases, and the combination of test cases is called test suite, and we run the entire test suite. If the test suite passes, then we actually deploy that particular web page onto our live website. So let us get into how to run these test suites. So now that we've successfully actually implemented our locators, we will now implement a test suite, which is a collection of test cases. Just to give you guys the idea of how multiple test cases are executed all at once when automated testing is taking place. So with Python, import unit test first. So this allows us to create multiple test cases. And then import Selenium, obviously. And we need the web driver from that. So for this, what you guys need to do is create a class. So let us create a class, and we're going to be implementing this with Google. We're going to be testing google.com. So let us call this search text and import the unit test dot test case class. So we need that. So the first thing that we need to do is whenever a test case begins, we need to initialize the website, right? So for that, there's a first function that actually initiates the setup. So it's called setup, and it takes the self attribute. So it's a constructor. And the first thing that we would do is create our Google Chrome session. So self dot driver equals to webdriver dot Chrome, and within this we have to specify the location of our Chrome driver. So let's quickly look into that. So we'll copy this location, paste it over here. If you're using Windows, make sure it's double backslash and double backslash once again, and the file name is actually called Chrome driver. So we'll get that. So we need to add a wait to this as well to account for any sort of web latency. So implicitly wait 30. We want to maximize the window. Whatever web browser window opens, we want to maximize it whenever we run the test case. So maximize window. And then we need to specify the location. So self.driver.get and within this type in the location, which is HTTP. So it's google.com, and make sure you add that / over there. So now we can, now that we've actually initialized, we've set up the constructor and everything, we've initialized the web page, we can now give in the test cases. So we can give as many functions as we want. So we can start by giving something like test search text. So this will actually implement, this would actually test the search box that is there on the Google website. So to get that, we'll first analyze how Google looks like. So firstly, let's open up Google. So let's open up that. And within this, click on the search bar and click on inspect. Right. So let me expand this first. Right, so it's there. So the name of this is Q. So the thing that we will do first is find the element by name. The search bar is with Q. So let us implement that. Self dot search underscore field equals to self dot driver dot find element by name. So get that, and within this give the option Q. So the attribute will be Q because the name is Q of the search bar. So now that you've actually selected the search bar, we can enter some input. So self dot search field dot send keys, and within this we can type something like Intellipaat Hadoop course, and that will be searched once the test case is implemented on Google. And then we'll simply type in self dot search field dot submit. So if it's a button, it'll automatically submit that. And then lastly, we can, after the search has been initiated, after the submit button has been clicked, we can get the search results by creating a lists variable. And the search variables come under the class name. So if you simply search for something on Google and you look at the class name for all of the search results that you get, the class name is R. And we'll simply calculate the number of search results on the page of Google that comes first. So we'll calculate the length of the list created. So you may be wondering what the assert equal function does. So essentially what it does is it compares the two parameters that have been given in. So for instance, say the parameter that I have given manually is 11, and the parameter that's being calculated is len of lists, which is the length of lists. So for this particular test case to pass, which is the test underscore search underscore text, this particular test case to pass, these two values should be equal. Otherwise, the test case wouldn't pass. So I've given in the condition that is required for this particular test case to pass, basically. And then finally, I have to give in the option to actually end the testing, which is tear down. So this will automatically close the browser window by typing in self.driver.quit. So now we've successfully created our search class, our test case class. So it has one test case in it. We can add as many functions as we want, but currently we're only adding one. So aside from these two, which are the initialization and closing cases, we have to add additional test cases between those two particular functions. And accordingly, we will execute as many test cases as we enter in the class of search text. In order to execute these test cases, simply at the bottom in the driver code, type in if underscore underscore name underscore underscore is equal to main, then call in the function unit test dot main, and that would be it. So let us now execute this. So click on terminal. So once you've clicked on terminal, type in Python and then given the name of this particular Python file, which is test.py, and then press enter. So it opens up the web browser on its own. It'll perform the test cases. So Intellipaat Hadoop course was as we could have seen. And we can now see that the test case has been ran, and it ran one test case, and this particular case, which was the assert equal, was not true. Hence our test case failed. So we can now successfully see how test suites work when we're using Selenium test cases. So that's about it for our session here today, guys. Be sure to sign up for the webinar to ask us doubts regarding any of our courses, regarding any of the subject matter personally, one-on-one. To ask us those doubts, simply register for the webinar, the link for which has been provided in your YouTube chat box. And here are our contact details. If you want to inquire anything about our courses, our course advisors are available 24/7 for you on the following contact details. So that's about it from us. We hope to see you again next time, and this is a goodbye from Intellipaat.